On today's episode, I want to talk about a few trends in the caring of babies that differ between the US and Germany. This wouldn't be a final list, just the beginning of observations that I have made since having given birth last October, but I wanted to dive into the differences between these two countries, so let's talk about it. Hello, Lieblings. I'm Mari, science fiction and fantasy author who's been living in southern Germany since 2014. So first, I'm trying a new camera setup. Let's see how it goes. And also, I am sweating today since we've been having a crazy heat wave in our area of Germany where it's been like 33, 35 degrees Celsius almost every day. And there's no air conditioning in this very old house. So it's very hot. Also, my teleprompter is slightly lower than it used to be with this new camera setup. So if I'm like doing this, I apologize. So I wanted to get into the nitty gritty of talking about these differences. But before I get to this list, I do think it's important to state that when we talk about parenting, people can get really up in arms about it. And once you start talking about parenting on an international level, it kind of gets worse and turns into like a xenophobic fight in either direction as people use it as an excuse to shit on other countries, like their approach to parenting. So I don't approve of that here. I think we can all agree that for the most part, we parents are just trying to do the best for our kids. And some of these differences can be cultural, others may be because of societal pressures, infrastructure, or lack thereof, and or finances. So I'm open to discussion about these topics, but please no shitting on each other, okay? So let's start with this list. Number one is clothing sizes. So clothing sizes in the US are organized by age group. So you have like newborn, 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, 9 to 12, 12 to 18 months, and then 2 years. On the other hand, European sizes are based on the length of the child in centimeters. Honestly, I like both. But it also depends on who I am to the child. So before I became a mom, I was squarely on team age group. And that's because I was always the one buying clothes as gifts to my other mom friends, and I didn't know the length of the child. So, and if I asked them, the mom knew I was going to get clothes. So that kind of would just like defeat the purpose of a surprise gift, right? So yeah, that was me for the longest time. But now that I am a mom, I see the benefit of having clothes organized by the actual size because, like 6 to 9 months is a very broad range, and kids are any and all different sizes. So, it's kind of hard to tell. I mean, it's like a guesstimate, right? But since I know how long my mouse is, picking clothes is much easier because, I know her length and I know, or at least where she's approaching or what size to go for more exactly. But because they are exact, sometimes you do find yourself still in that weird in between size, like sleeping sacks. There could be like a smidge too small in one size and the other's like way too big, and there like isn't much in between. And because in my experience with sleeping sacks or Schlafsäcke, they're always like in the tens of centimeters. So like 60, 70, 80, 90 centimeters. And I remember at one point while Mouse was 68 centimeters, which is roughly like 6 months, we needed a new sleeping sack. And the only sizes we found at DM were like 60 and then 80. And 60 was obviously too small and 80 was obviously way too big. But, we had to do what we do. I think we did end up, we had to like order online and found some decent ones that were 70. And even then it was like almost too short to be. It was weird. It's weird, but there are pros and cons to either, and I think it just comes down to preference. And so I leave it to you. What is your preference? Let me know in the comments below. And speaking of sleeping sacks, number 2 is swaddle puke versus sleeping sack or a Schlafsack. So Americans swear by swaddling, while Schlafsäcke are very common in Germany, at least from what I've seen. When I was pregnant, all of my American relatives were going on and on about how I need to swaddle my baby. Swaddle, swaddle, swaddle. And my midwife also did talk about the benefits of swaddling, but I don't think any of the moms in my birthing course or my Geburtsvorbereitungskurs, I don't think any of them did any swaddling. It's just, sleeping sacks from the get-go, or Schlafsack. I will admit that we mostly use a Schlafsack. There were times at the beginning where we did swaddle Mouse, especially during her witching hour, where she would, scream inexplicably for a few hours every night. And it did help. It really, really helped. And I know a few moms had tried swaddling their babies, but apparently those babies just got even more enraged. And so they're like, nope, nope, no swaddling for me. But every baby is different. So at least I tried. I personally believe that parents should be informed of both practices because, like I said, every baby's different and you may find yourself, preferring one over the other. Number 3 is breastfeeding. So there are 4 camps that I think that come like into breastfeeding. You have exclusive breastfeeding, which is, what all you do. And this is what I did. And actually most of the moms in my group did. And this was made easy, honestly, because we're all on maternity leave and we have time and we're home with our kids and, thus able to exclusively breastfeed. The next group is exclusive pumping. And this is when you want your kid to still have breast milk, but through the bottle. I have seen this more in the States than in Germany. And in fact, and nobody in my group has done exclusive pumping, or most of them didn't even really like pump at all. It doesn't mean that they're not out there in Deutschland. This is just common among moms who don't want to breastfeed or they may find it too painful, but they still have supply and they want to give their kid breast milk. So the third group is a mix of breastfeeding and pumping. And this is mostly what you'll find in the States. And that's just because of lack of maternity leave and women just have to go back to, to work like 5 minutes after giving birth. I am being hyperbolic, in case you couldn't tell. I did pump a bit, but I will admit it's very hard when you're at home with your kid to find time. Um, especially at the beginning where my kid was like cluster feeding every hour for the first several weeks. That was fun. And the last group is bottle/formula. And I see more formula in the States than in Germany. But it is literally down to like not having lactation consultants or not being able to afford one. And that I'm going to get into that in another episode. It's formula is usually just pushed onto mothers. And again, with the lack of maternity leave and women having to go back to work, your supply automatically decreases when you're away from your kid, and it's a thing. So, like I said, I will cover the whole yeah. There's a lot to cover. I will do that later. But in the end, a lot of moms don't end up breastfeeding in the States, and which is why the formula shortage that there was going on last year was a special hell for a lot of families. In Germany, my midwife had made it clear that formula is a perfectly good choice, especially if you don't want to breastfeed at all or you just don't have a supply. And at least one of the ladies in my group, that was the case. And I mean, her kid is doing great. There's, all the kids are great. Number 4, prams and strollers. So for my German audience, a pram is a Wanne and the stroller is a buggy or Sportsitz, depending on what you have. And pretty much every parent in Germany, of course, starts with a pram because Germans like to walk, and that doesn't end because you have a baby. And in the States, pram is like rich people stuff because they're the only ones who could afford nannies, as well as the pram to be, like they have the means to like buy said pram and to hire someone to walk their kids because they're at work because no one has maternity leave. Um, yeah. Like I said, we don't have time to walk our kids because we have to be back at work like 5 minutes after giving birth. So, and strollers are expensive, and I mean they're expensive in Germany as well. And like I said, it's since Americans are not able to walk a lot, and that is because of lack of infrastructure. Not so much because we don't want to. I mean, it's because we don't want to, but Um, there are no sidewalks, in a lot of places. So since you're not unable to walk a lot, it's an investment that a lot of people just avoid. And like I said, the with Americans that are unable to walk, it's because our infrastructure is built solely for cars. There are places you could walk with your kid. I meif you go to like a zoo or a children's museum or whatever, yes, you take a stroller. But outside, there's not really sidewalks, and if you wanna, if there are places that have paths for you to walk your kids, you still have to drive there first because everything's based on is revolves around cars. So usually when a parents get a stroller, they'll usually start with the one that attached to the car seat because everybody has to get a car seat. So it's easier just to get an attachment for that if necessary. And speaking of, number 5 is car seats. Though something that always cracks me up on social media is when someone posts a photo of a kid in a car seat that looks like this. The American moms come out of the woodwork to remind this mom or to reprimand her for not positioning the chest clip correctly. And guys, there is no chest clip. In some countries, chest clips are illegal, while in the US, they are a legal requirement. I have seen some American moms getting after parents for not even using car seats on planes. Like, eh. Sadly, it is usually Americans, and then there's always a plethora of replies reminding these moms that, like, other countries exist outside of the US. Not all car seats have chest clips, and also like the taking of car seats in a plane is such a waste. I know a lot of parents, I was seeing a lot of parents were talking about, because of turbulence. Oh, it's to protect a kid during turbulence. And I feel like that's fine if you're like traveling within the US and you need a car seat anyway. But like our car seat in Europe, it would be illegal in the States because it doesn't have a chest clip. And so why would I bring my European car seat to the States? It's a waste, like that's extra weight that you can't use. That makes no sense. Um Honestly, I don't know what we're gonna do when we go to the States and we have to, like, a lot of people, you can rent car seats through, like, a rental company, and that's probably what we would do to make sure that we're within, like, by US law. Um, we have a while before that, and I will get back to you on that, but yeah, the car seat and plane thing, I think it's wild. Also, another thing that I find interesting is in the States, when you first take your kid home, you usually have you either at the hospital or even at a police station, they install the car seat for you. Um, at least in my experience in Germany, we did not do that. We did it ourselves. In fact, the day we took Mouse home, we couldn't get the car seat into the car. We have this ISOFIX because we have some Maxi Cozy, and you're supposed to just click it in. That's why we got it. You just click it in, and it wouldn't click. And we're like, "What the heck?" And we're like, "Ah!" And of course, I like we took the baby out before we were doing that. Of course, like I was holding the baby like in the car, and my husband was trying to get like the car seat in there, and oh, it was super stressful. But we got it, and we figured out what was the trick with the ESO fix, and so it was fine. It's totally fine now. We're always safe. But like, oh man, that was very stressful that day because we have this little, this new little precious thing, and how the hell do we get the car seat? Anyway, we're actually going to be needing a new one soon because Mouse is starting to outgrow hers, which is crazy that she goes so fast. She's 9 months now. She just turned 9 months on, like, well, as I'm filming this, it was yesterday. But by the time this goes up, it'll be like a week or so. So, but anyway, that's math for you. And finally, number 6 is back to sleep/tummy time. So this is something I didn't think to comment on until I saw a TikTok of an American mom living in France who brought up tummy time with different pediatricians for each of her kids. She has 2 kids. And they looked at her like she had a second head. According to her, the French don't do tummy time. It didn't actually occur to me that other countries didn't emphasize the importance of tummy time because this is something that Germany and the US have in common. When I was at the hospital, the on-call pediatrician talked me through the importance of making sure my baby slept on her back at night and during the day got as much tummy time as possible and make sure she didn't have a flat head and, nothing in the crib and blah, blah, blah. Like literally the only difference was like, what are you clothing your baby in? I'm like, the swaddle. And she's like, I mean, it was the Schlafsack, but yeah, swaddle is fine. Like, literally, that's the only difference. But everything else is like 1-to-1 between the States and Germany. So it didn't occur to me that other countries are like, what is this? And oh yeah, and of course, like the comments about like why Americans do tummy time. One of them was, oh, it's because Americans are lazy. That's what I mean by like using parenting, international parenting to just shit on each other. Ugh. Anyway, today was a rambling episode, and I just thought a lot of this was very interesting, and I had to bring them up. And if you're curious about the TikTok of this mom, I have gone ahead and linked it in the description below. Like I said, these are my observations, and just because I may not have seen these things in Germany, it doesn't mean that they don't exist. My little pocket of Germany is very small, so I mean, I can't say that my observations speak for Germany as a whole or the U.S. as a whole. I feel like that's obvious, but I still have to state it. So, what do you think? What are your thoughts on all of this? There are no wrong answers. Just let me know in the comments below. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Give this video a thumbs up. It lets me and YouTube know you like this kind of content and you want to see more. Please leave me a comment if you have any questions or if you have any topics you'd like to see on this channel. If you want more information about my books or newsletter, please check them out in the description below. And don't forget to connect with me on social media, whether it is through Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or the TikToks. And that's it. Until next time, ade!